Stephen Interviews You. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Stephen Interviews You. This is episode number 14. I'm your host, Stephen Vitt. And this is a series where I just sit down and have a casual chat with a special guest. And his name would be, introduce yourself.
Nathan Bomber Brown from the College Football Mafia.
Nice to have you on the show, Nathan.
Sure.
Bomber, as I like to call you. So, yeah, let's just get started right away with
Okay.
a YouTube channel that we all well know. At least I hope we all well know. It's called the College Football Mafia. So just take me through it. Tell me the story of how all this came to be, how the College Football Mafia family became a thing. Who started it? What happened? What led to it?
So I started it, and I think I started watching college football videos during COVID, and the people that were putting shows on were not any smarter than I was. Certainly weren't smarter than some of the stuff that I know about college football. And I was like, well, wait a second. What does it take to even get this done? I didn't know the process. So I started reaching out, got some feedback from a couple of YouTubers to let me know kind of how they got started. But I wasn't going to do it by myself. I don't do anything well by myself in real life. I have to have family and friends and support around me. So I wanted to have a team. And the first and easiest way that I could think of as a BYU fan to get started would be to do a show with a Utah fan. And it took me well over 9 months to find a Utah fan that would even have a conversation with me. And it was really frustrating me. And then one day I came across the Wild Ute, and I'd done 2 or 3 shows by myself, but I was able to talk him into coming on and doing a show with me. And we originally started as a rivalry show. But as we were covering realignment, the business of college football, everything it takes to hike a football once a year, we decided just over time that we were going to do all of college football. So that's when Moen came on. His talent is back end. He knows how to do everything that you do for your show every day. He takes care of that for us. Super smart. And since then, we've just been growing, just covering all college football and everything that goes around college sports. And it's something that we're all passionate about because, as you know, you don't get rich doing this unless you make big institutional changes, and we're not there yet. We're still doing baby steps, but the idea is just get together with a bunch of good people and just have fun. Just talk. You can jaw, you can argue. If you've watched our show at all that you know that I argue with Ute and Moen all the time, and we're not talking baby arguments. We're talking about we're yelling at each other's, right? We're really passionate about what we believe. But what's great about that is in the background, when the show's over, that's it, right? We respect each other enough that stuff does not carry any weight when they go into their regular life. So I feel very grateful that I've come across with some people that can put up with me. And I think they would say that the parts that they bring is unique as well. And we wouldn't be successful without everybody.
So as a quick follow-up question, College Football Mafia, the name itself, who came up with the name College Football Mafia, and how did that get started? Like College Football Mafia, how did that just get going?
I came up with it. It was shortly after BYU was admitted to the Big 12. I was trying to reach out and talking to creators and just people on shows that might want to talk about the stuff I wanted to talk about. And I came across this one guy from the 365 Sports Show, and he and I made contact. I think it was on Twitter, and he says, "Well, you know what we need is a mafia. What we need is a Big 12 protection racket, essentially." And I said, "I love it. Let's do it." And he didn't want to do it. So it was we had just mentioned it in this one sentence. I took that and flipped it around and made it a whole thing. And now we do have a bunch of people who contribute. Sergeant Pickles and Becky Go Huskies and Rock and Rant and Daniel Gygax. The list goes on and on and on. But again, none of this would work if one, we didn't work and respect each other as a team, and two, I hadn't had really good mentors that took their time to sort of help me get started. In this business, there's a bunch of shortcuts you can do, or you can do stuff the hard way. And I decided to take the shortcuts. So the only way I could think to do that was get with other creators, and they could help me sort of break the system so I didn't have to do it the slow way.
Yeah, I find it to be a very catchy name, College Football Mafia. It just rolls right off.
I love it.
And by the way, the last episode, I'm sure you've watched it, episode 13. I mentioned to Tony Reale. I mentioned the College Football Mafia channel to him.
Is that right?
Yes, Tony Reale, Stat Boy.
I
He
do
used
know
to
who
work.
he is. Yeah.
Actually had him
Okay.
as yeah. So
That's cool.
I recommended you guys to him if you ever wanted to become a guest on your show. So yeah,
That is fantastic. You know what? I don't think I have his DM, but if you give me his contact info, I'll reach out to him. That's really cool. I've known Tony Reale for years. That's really cool. You had him on your show.
yeah. So going forward here, since we are talking about college football, you are obviously a diehard BYU fan,
I am.
Brigham Young University. Could you tell me how did you first become a BYU fan? What got going there? What is the backstory behind that, and how did it all evolve?
My dad my dad graduated from BYU, and while he was at school here, Lavelle Edwards took over. And BYU football before 1972, sort of a middling program. I'm not going to lie to anybody. Utah took him to task for decades. That wasn't where the church put most of its money for athletics. It put it into basketball. So football was a new thing and was just getting going. Gifford Nielsen was a quarterback at BYU, and my dad knew him. So we went into the stadium, and I was all of 3 years old, and we played catch. Gifford Nielsen and I. Dad was always proud of that. And since then, I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked to be a BYU fan. I met Lavelle Edwards, was it twice? I actually had a conversation with him, and he said, the one thing that I got out of him, if you're going to build anything, how do you do it? And he says, with love. So Lavelle Edwards said, if you're going to build something, it's got to be with love. I always appreciated that. Steve Young, Jim McMahon. So you can tell how old I am, right? So I was born in 1970, so I just turned 55. So I've seen a little bit of football, and if you know BYU history at all, you know that BYU's been fighting for respectability for more than 50 years. So I've always been the guy that likes to cheer the underdog, and being a BYU fan has been like that up until recently.
Yeah. So honestly, I never knew that you were 55 years old. I honestly never knew that. I mean,
Okay, well, it's not a
because,
secret. I'm happy to
but,
share it.
but I'm saying you look younger than that. Honestly, you
Oh,
do.
thank
Yeah,
you. I
yeah,
appreciate that. Yeah,
you know,
I work at it. No, I don't.
yeah,
I don't work at it at all.
because I joke about myself. It's like, yeah, I'm 36, but I feel much older than that. So it's just,
Oh, wow. No, you
so
you do not. You're 36. You
yeah,
definitely do not look that old. I thought you were 28 or 29.
yeah. So yeah,
That's a blessing. Your
yeah,
family must love that.
yeah. I sure hope so. So
I'm sure they do.
yeah. So anyway, now that you mention it, the old days of BYU, as you just mentioned, Jim McMahon, Steve Young. Yeah, you watched those days. Yeah, tell me what that was like. What was that kind of history like for BYU?
It was amazing. I was the golden time for college football to me is the 70s, 80s, and first part of the 90s. And if you know BYU history, you'll understand why I believe that is because in 72, Lavelle took over and completely changed the paradigm here in Provo, Utah, for going out and winning, right? Winning became the thing. And it was amazing to know people that are connected. My uncles all went through BYU, and they all had roommates that were football players. They know so many football players, and I was just a teenager during those times. So It was kind of cool knowing people that know people. Um, my one of my dad's best friends. I'm not gonna say his name, but he was the advisor consultant for the football players. In other words, he helped them get through classes. And he was Merlin Olsen's brother. I'm not going to tell you what his name was, but he used to get us tickets to the game. And so we would get in and go to the football offices and see all these amazing players. It's not like I was best friends with them or anything, but once you have that connectedness to something, it makes cheering for them that much easier. And in my opinion, until when the BCS came out in 1996, or what was it, the Bold Champion? No, it was the Alliance. When the Bowl Alliance started in '97, that was directly in um, contrast to BYU in '96 went 14-1 and should have been in the championship game. They didn't like that, so they came up with the bowl champion. Sorry, they came up with the what was it? Alliance bowl. What was it called? Bowl championship series. No, that's not it. It was the whatever came before the BCS. Anyway, um, when you know that, you know kind of how the history has gone in broadcasting for football, especially. It's easy to see how times have changed so much from the 1970s up through about 93, 94. Anybody could have won the national championship. Anybody, and people did, right? Now most of those teams now are in autonomous four conferences, but you had West Virginia was playing for a national championship. You had Georgia Tech. Colorado was in the Big Eight at the time, so they don't really count. But you had more access to the playoff. It wasn't even a playoff, just into the big bowls, so you could try to fight for the national championship. Nowadays, with the playoff format, anybody can get in, but not really. You and I both know it's an invitational, right? And the big threat from the SEC is we'll just do our own thing, right? Their big threat is they're just going to walk away and leave the world, and they'll just come up with their own series and they'll make billions and billions of dollars. We'll leave college football in the wings, and that's not where we want to be. If Ohio, University of Ohio, had won out this year, they should have a chance to get that playoff spot. I don't care what conference you're from. As long as you have access, you could get to that spot. That's the way I think it needs to be. I think it needs to be more teams need to be in it. 16, 24, I don't really care how many because it doesn't bother me. I'm not threatened by the number. You just want the best football games you can get in there. And there's still a lot of teams being left out of the playoff that 35, 40 years ago maybe would have had a chance to play.
Yeah. So about BYU, we talked about, possibly, competing for championships. One year that comes to mind would be 1984.
Yep.
How special was that year for BYU athletics in general, not just the football team, but just 1984? How special was that year?
It's still special. It's
Yeah.
legacy, right? And I don't feel I don't look, Notre Dame won their last national championship in '88. So it's not like calling back to a national championship is a bad thing. It's actually a great thing. BYU can lean into their history and their legacy to build what they have coming now. What it meant to me, it was a big deal coming from a small town that didn't have a lot of LDS members, wearing my BYU gear. That year, Washington had an argument they should win the national championship that year. So I'm surrounded by Huskies, right? And I count myself as a Husky too. I love watching Washington State play football. But when it came to this one thing, I was not going to shy away, and so I didn't. There were guys that did not like me too much that made me feel not too great, the fact that BYU won the national championship. But then for years going forward, whenever I saw them, it still sticks in their craw, and they'll still say something like, "Oh, you guys didn't deserve that," or something like that. And then I celebrate. I'm like, "Yeah, that's right. We do have it, and you can't change history."
Nice. Yeah, it's many people when they look back at that 1984 BYU team, they think about how amazing it was for them to even get to that point to win it all in
Right.
1984. And so, and you also mentioned Notre Dame briefly. And so this was going to be one of the questions I was going to ask. Independence,
Mm-hmm.
being independent from a conference. Notre Dame today still does it. The only other school that does it is UConn, but eventually they're going to have to join a conference. But
Yeah.
um, BYU was
Mm-hmm.
independent from 2011 to 2022, um, at least in that period.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on independence in general? Do you think it's feasible, even in this day and age, for any schools, doesn't matter which one, for any schools to consider becoming independent?
Unless you're like an Ohio State, unless you're the top 20 brands in the country, um, independence is a non-starter. Those organizations can run on their own. They make $500 million a year or something in revenue, right? Some of these brands. You can't do that if you're outside of it. So say you're, let's say not UConn, they would be lower on the list. Let's say Utah decided they wanted to go independent because they just didn't want to be in the Big 12 anymore. There's a few costs that come with that. First, you have to get a broadcasting partner. You have to get somebody who's willing to carry your games. BYU got ESPN, and it really was a lifeline to keep them going. Then they had to go and they spent $100 million on a communications building and program, $100 million to build their own studios, to come up with their own TV cameras. All their games they broadcast, BYU produces them. In fact, still to this day, the best broadcasts that you'll see on TNT or at ESPN that run through Provo, BYU's doing that production value. So the investment is massive. So let's look at anybody that's not in the top 20 brands, almost anybody you could name, who can incur those costs. Not only can most state schools can't do it, but even the private schools aren't getting the state subsidies that these programs are getting at like, well, Iowa State, right? They're very short on money. They're not happy about the fact that Arizona, the legislature, bailed out both of their athletic programs for Arizona and Arizona State to the tune of over $72 million. Wrote a check and said, "You guys debt spend, that's okay. We want you guys to be top shelf sports. We're gonna pay that off for you." There's some states that can't afford to do that. Iowa State is one of the ones that brought it up. West Virginia says we're going to commit, right? West Virginia says we're going to go out and get 50, 60, 70 million dollars to keep our program top shelf. Everybody's going to have to do that, Stephen. So independence to me anymore, especially with the way everything's worked out, I think would be a death sentence. I wouldn't recommend. I hated when BYU did it. I understand the path and the reason why, but it was painful. Those 12 years were absolutely painful from the fans' perspective. Basically, your entire season was week to week. You didn't have a conference championship to play for. If you lost on October 4th, you were done for the rest of the year. There's no earning that back, right? So it may get to a point where Notre Dame says it's not tenable. I still am highly suspicious of any ideas then joining, say, the Big Ten, unless there is some dollar amount, $500 million says, yeah, come and join us. We'll give you all this money and you can keep some of your autonomy. Because that's one thing they have nobody else has access to, is the fact they don't have a conference it's the flip side. They don't have a conference to fight for. They just show up with 2 losses and they'll probably get into the playoff again. Is that right? I don't think it is. I think you ought to be in a conference. You should have to earn your way in either through the playoff or through a very difficult conference schedule. Look at their strength of schedule is going to be in the 60s or 70s by the end of the year. If they have, I don't know, they have 2 losses and they really don't. They've already lost their 2 biggest games on their schedule except for USC. So how are they going to prove to the voters that they're any good, right? So they may get to a point where they just don't want to deal with it anymore. College football is changing enough. I could see a time where the conferences don't even really matter anymore. And you've heard my idea where basically you eliminate the conferences and you just put a league together of some number, and then everybody plays like it's a regular. College football is the only thing in the world that's run the way it is, with polls and top 25s and all. Nobody else in the world does this. So if anybody's looking at college football and saying it's a system that we need to survive, that we need to keep going, that's absolutely not true. I if anything needs revamp, it's the way college football is currently running.
So getting off the independence, uh, eventually, of course, BYU joined the Big 12
Mm-hmm.
conference. What are your thoughts on the Big 12 conference? How do you how do you think it's being run? Is it being run well? What are your thoughts on Commissioner Brett Yormark for the Big 12, and where do you see things going for BYU in the Big 12?
You're trying to get me in trouble with my Big 12 people. Um,
No.
up until about 4 months ago, I thought Brett Yormark could walk on water. I didn't think he could do anything wrong. And then he came out and he immediately, blind faith, stepped in line with the way the SEC wants to run the playoff selection, and basically everything stays on ESPN, and their control is total. I don't know why he's doing it. We might find out in 2 years. There's some long game associated with it, but to me, I think it would be better if you can go out and secure spots, and everybody gets the same. So instead of saying 4-4-2-2 for who qualifies, how about you just fight for 2-2-2-2? Nobody forced him to step up and say we want it to run like the SEC wants it to run, and there's no reason you had to do it the way that Tony Petitti was talking about at the Big Ten. Go out and be a proponent for something different, and he just didn't do that. So BYU being in the Big 12, we're all in. You're not going to see BYU fans complaining. When a different opportunity comes along, will they look at it? Absolutely. But BYU right now you could easily say, is one of the anchors to the conference. We don't backbite. Nobody's complaining in the administration. We're not going out and openly sort of thumbing our noses at the way the Big 12 does stuff, just to show that, hey, we want to be somewhere else. And it will be that way until it's not, and until something else changed. So I like Brett Yormark. I'm pissed about the way he did his opinion on the CFP, but I'm going to give him. I got to give him some grace and say there has to be a bigger play in the background to make that worth it. But the way he's running basketball, and the way he's gone to TNT Sports and gotten them broadcasting football and basketball games, in my opinion, that's genius. Absolute genius. And it's quite possible that in 2030-31, at the next negotiating window for the media deal, that they might just go TNT. The Big 12, you might see them being the anchor brand on HBO, on CBS, all the WBS channels. And I would love that, because ESPN Plus sucks. Absolutely sucks.
Yeah. Don't I know that because
I know you're Maction. You guys are
I
stuck
hear
with it. Yeah.
I hear about ESPN Plus a lot because the American Conference, their media deal,
Right.
which I'm not a fan of right now. I'm just not. I'm not seeing a lot of good things long term for that one. But having said that, yeah. So going back to BYU real fast, and
Mm-hmm.
this is like more of a kind of a broad question, but still for fun kind of question. Because you've watched a lot of games featuring BYU,
A
BYU
few.
football.
Yeah.
If you could provide me like a short list of your favorite games, your all-time favorite games involving BYU, what would they be?
They go way back. There was a Holiday Bowl where they came back and they were down 4 touchdowns in 5 minutes, and came back and won a bowl game against SMU. That one stands out to me. I want to say that was 79 or 80. This is when SMU was good, by the way. This was Pony Express days. Um, that game always stands out. Obviously, the Holiday Bowl against Michigan is a standout game because you win the national championship after. I had hoped they were going to get an invitation to like the Fiesta Bowl or the Sugar Bowl, but that just didn't work. So you can only beat who's in front of you. Um, the very next year, Washington came down to Provo, and they were still mad they didn't get the national championship the year before, and BYU beat them like 36-3 or something like that. I was at that game. That was kind of a fun game to be at. One that I wasn't able to see in person, although my dad had gotten his tickets. Long story why I couldn't go, But obviously, Ty Detmer beating Miami, coming off of their national championship run, they made everybody look silly in 1989. They come to Provo in 1990, and Ty Detmer beats them. That was a really big game. Sorry, that's choking me up a little bit. That was a big game. And I could watch that over 100 times. Every play I have memorized in my head. Warren Sapp running into, was it Kirkland, when they were trying to tackle Ty Detmer, when he was a walking stick, by the way. Nobody would accuse Ty Detmer of being, he is not Lamar Jackson. He was never that way. And the fact he was able to get out of there was kind of magical. Anyway, let's see. Sarkisian in 1996, that team went 14-1. First team in college football history to win 14 games. They kept them out. That kind of sucked. 2001, Lavelle Edwards' last game. That was a big deal. And then you went through a stretch where we didn't have many, at least not big games. And then recently, just in the last year and a half, I'd say even 2 years, BYU beat some really good teams. And beating Utah last year was a big deal. Taking Colorado out to the woodshed last year in the bowl game, that was a big deal because you have like 8 million people watching that game. So I think BYU is back. I think that they're going to continue to represent the Big 12 conference, and I don't know. We'll have to see if they're 6-0 when they play Utah. The Holy War will be absolutely bedlam. It will be chaos on a field. I promise you.
Well, now that we talk about Provo, Utah,
Okay.
just the atmosphere, the culture of that campus, Provo, Utah, BYU. What is it like? Because you've attended some games there.
Mm-hmm.
What is it like? Just the general feeling, like tailgating, just atmosphere, game time, all that.
So tailgating isn't the greatest because there's no alcohol.
Right.
So if people like to go 5 hours before the game, get lubed up, enjoy. I don't have a problem with somebody drinking. It doesn't bother me, right? I'm secure in my choices. But on campus and all the parking pretty much is extended campus property. You can't drink. So if as long as you don't come begging to have alcohol in your veins, you will absolutely love it. The people are the nicest you're going to come across. You want to hate them and you can't. I could find hundreds of posts on Twitter where, like Arizona State comes in one year, we come back and beat them, and leaving the game, everybody's saying good game, can't wait to see you again, right? These are games that BYU's lost to Boise State in Provo, and it was pat them on the back. You guys got us. We'll get you next time. So if you come, one, you're going to get in the third quarter free ice cream. You can take and do with that what you want. But the setting, especially night games, I would argue is the prettiest in the country. The mountains are in the background. The stadium lights up the whole part of the valley that's in. Provo, Utah is a quaint little college football, college football, but it's a college town. So yeah, I think you would absolutely enjoy it. It's a road trip, and I'm talking to people that are Miami fans, that are Alabama fans, and they're all saying, "Man, that looks like a fun place to play," and it really is. I could easily share with you some videos that people have made about the way everything works for these games, and I think you'd be impressed. There are people that say people are weird because they're too nice. I don't know. I don't know what too nice is. I was raised to say too nice is good, so you can do with that what you will. But yeah, it's a fantastic place to play a game.
So you mentioned Utah as a rival, and that's
Yeah.
obvious between BYU and Utah. But putting aside Utah for 1 minute, as far as rivals go for BYU, what are some of the other rivalries that BYU has? And what are your thoughts on those rivalries?
Ones that are still standing or that are old that aren't currently kindled? You talking about
Uh,
ones that are going right now?
at least ones that are going on right now, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I think Boise State is somebody we love to play them and they love to play us. Unfortunately, they're not on the schedule for the next little bit, which pisses me off. But I think those games are fantastic. TCU is another one from the Mountain West time. BYU and TCU and Utah ran that conference. I always went through one of those locations to win the Mountain West Conference. So we have them. Arizona and Arizona State go way back into the 70s, and they used to play them every year. They were in the same conference. But other than that, there's not a ton because, to be honest, unless you're in the region, nobody wants to play BYU. They don't want to play BYU because coming to Provo, 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose. Now, there are exceptions. 2 years ago, Jake Retzlaff threw 3 interceptions that were just the worst interceptions I've ever seen, and we lost to Oklahoma. But that would have been a good game to win. You just want good games, right? And back in the 70s and 80s, everybody played everybody else all over. You used to travel. There wasn't this regionality like the SEC now. No longer leaves the Southeastern Conference region to go play games unless it's the Big Ten, I guess. That's a problem. We want people to come to Provo, and we want them to look at us like they have as much to gain by beating us as we do beating them. And we're getting there, slowly but surely, being very patient. But LDS people have been here 200 years now, almost 200 years in Utah, and pioneers had to live off the land. So we're used to building things small and then growing them. Patience is a virtue. That's something that we have around here. And while we're impatient for dominance in college football, we are patient for what's being built. The next big thing here is, and I want to do anything I can to promote it, is we need to replace Lavelle Edwards Stadium and get a new stadium. Not because the stadium is bad, just because I want more than 65,000 people to be in it. It's capped out on how many people can watch a game. So we're working on that.
Yeah, and one more question about rivalries.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was trying to do some research before this about BYU, who they played against.
Mm-hmm.
Do they still try to play games against Utah State?
I hope not.
Hope not.
Utah State, Wyoming, those are not trips I think BYU should ever be making anymore.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. You play those teams 9 times out of 10, you're going to come out with significant injuries.
Mm.
And I could back that up with injury reports after games for the last 30 years. Wyoming is just Wyoming, and Utah State they've been around longer, right? As a university, Utah State's been around longer, and they're never going to be big in Logan. And so when they play BYU, these games can get pretty chippy.
Mm.
Other than that, I can't think of any. I mean, I don't ever want to play UTEP again. I would be okay if we didn't play New Mexico again. But whatever. Those games come up, I guess.
Yep. I was just curious because I did read something about BYU, Utah State at some point playing games, against each
They
other. So yeah,
they probably played for 100 times.
yeah,
Yeah, they've played a bunch. I just don't want them to do it anymore.
right.
Yeah, I would prefer BYU just keep Utah on the schedule, right?
Yep,
That's the most important thing right now.
yep. So going on to this again, this is like a broad question, but I think you've touched on it a little bit. Uh, Basically, the future of college sports in general, college football, college sports in general, and you guys talk about it all the time on College Football Mafia on your
Right.
shows. NIL, transfer portal, conference realignments, and the college football playoff, of course. All
Yep.
those things wrapped into one. What are your thoughts on this short term and long term, the future of college sports? Where do you think it's headed?
Well, something needs to change in the way it's being run. I think the current conference system, the autonomous leagues, them having dominance over the whole thing, that's fine if that's all it was. But there's 136 Division One schools, and to have half of the whole thing run by two plus two conferences, you can't service all those people. So they either reorganize completely and they don't worry about the conference structure and they just start playing football and everybody plays in some sort of a playoff format. I don't think that's coming. Cody Campbell is out there saying he wants to save Olympic sports and women's sports. The way to do that, one of the ways to do that, is get money from government to help them pay for those sports, the Olympic sports especially, so we can compete in the Olympics. I don't know. Do you want your taxes to go up so we can have Olympic sports in the country? Whatever. We're already paying taxes from ridiculous stuff. I could think of worse things that they could try to organize around. The SCORE Act, which just went over a significant hurdle today, that is built to rein in NIL, built to rein in transfers, and not make the players employees, essentially make them indentured servants. Congress is currently working on trying to come up with a deal to put that into act. On top of that, it would include an antitrust exemption, which essentially would say college used to have an antitrust exemption. It went away. They want it back because if they get it back, they can roll all of the progressive player reforms that we've had come out in the last 5-6 years, and they can stop it immediately. Doesn't matter what your state legislature says. The federal government has come in and said you have to meet these guidelines, and pretty much the Autonomous 4 NCAA can make up the rules as they want. That makes me feel extremely insecure. So I am way against that. I talk about it every day. If somebody does a post, I'm okay with some of the other stuff they want to negotiate. The antitrust exemption is where you lose me. I don't know how they can give that back to them. So Cody Campbell's out here doing stuff, trying to save all these other sports. Plus, he wants to reorganize college football. You have the SCORE Act, which is you got to know when all the conferences get behind something with the NCAA, the fix is in, right? If to have all 5 of those groups working together, that tells you how screwed up it's going to be for the players. So if that was to get approved and Trump signed it, it would be a disaster. And I'm just predicting the future right now. It will be an absolute disaster because what all these states and schools are going to want to do is roll back. They don't want to have third-party NIL deals worth millions of dollars not going through their checkbook. They're going to want to control that money. And if you control money, you control everything else. So there has to be ways that we can do this without giving them just a carte blanche ruling. So I think college football's in a good place. College basketball's in a fantastic place. But those things will change if they start to do real restrictions on NIL and third-party not third-party NIL, and then the revenue sharing. The last thing is transfer portal. And I don't know how you feel about transfer portal. I have no problem with it. Them rolling it back to once a year, I think is fine in the spring, fine, whatever the timing is. I would prefer it was in January, but whatever. Right now, you can pretty much be a free agent and go from school to school to school to school. Is that wrong? I don't know. If you have a job, you can go out and get another job tomorrow if somebody's willing to pay you. So why are we saying a college athlete can't do the same thing to get more money? So again, those are concerns I have about the federal government coming in and legislating changes. Some alarm bells there.
Following up on this, the future of college football. Just a quick question.
Sure.
Do you think, because I like to, on my show, Bobcat Corner, I like to talk about not just the Ohio Bobcats, but college football in general. And I always talk about this at some point, the Big Ten and the SEC. Do you think, Nathan Brown, that at some point in the future they're going to break away?
I don't.
You don't?
No, I don't think
No.
that's going to happen. I don't think it's enough teams. They would need to expand to at least 24 teams apiece, maybe even 28 teams. The reason I don't think they do is because to survive an antitrust charge against the Big Ten and the SEC, they'd need to have people that would vote for them. And right now, senators are 2 apiece. Every state gets them. So it doesn't matter what your state population is, or if you come from a big, powerful, politically astute state, let's say Ohio, and you're in there to represent the people that you care about most. If you do that, and these people are in it all the time, I think they will find out that the conferences would have to be so big it doesn't make sense to do that. The better way to go, in my opinion, is to leave conferences the way they are or keep shifting them for other realignment reasons. But just for college football, I think we ought to leave the conferences alone and just bring in the top X number of schools, and they will compete in a championship level for, let's say, 4 years. And then you could do like a promotion relegation thing. Where you have schools that earn their way in, right? If you're willing to pay the freight, you ought to have the opportunity to get into the real, Division 1A or something like that, a different division, and then leave the conferences alone. You have all the best football brands playing football against each other. You can go back to more regional scheduling. You don't have to worry about any of that. And the money will trickle down. It will make it down to the Ohio's because it would be required. Otherwise, the federal government could come in and say, hey, look, you're disenfranchising 2/3 of the country, and you can't do that with something that the federal government gives you guys money to survive. Your state governments give you guys money to survive. You can't take that money and now section it off without being attached to the greater whole. So if there is a bigger supra league, which is what I call my own thing, it needs to be more than half of the available schools. So right now there's, I think, 135 or 136 schools that are in Division I. You'd have to get at least half of those into one upper division before you could consider doing anything with a league that didn't have anything to do with the conferences. I don't trust the conferences, any of them. I don't trust any of them.
Well, I think we could wrap this up with one last question, and it's just a
Sure.
basic question. Uh, in your opinion, Nathan Brown, what advice would you have for those, for people that are just getting started with YouTube, just starting their own YouTube channels? What advice would you give them when it comes to starting up their own YouTube channel, for making their own videos?
I would find somebody who's been doing it a long time and ask them for help. That'd be my very first recommendation to anybody. So if somebody was to send me a DM after they see this recording and they're like, I could do that too. I'm smarter than you are, right? Okay, great. Send me a DM and I'll tell you I've already got them pre-formatted and typed up suggestions people can do. I'd probably give an advice to 10 or 20 creators. 3 or 4 of them actually got into it and started making some money. The information's free. You just have to remember, all you have to capture, and this is like, I think it's 8 zeros. So 0.801 of all the viewership that is watching YouTube at any given time, and you're a millionaire. Because there's so many people out in the world that watch. People watch us international. Slovenia, Japan, United States, Hawaii, South America. We have international people that watch the show. And if you can reach international, now you could open up a whole new market for how much money you can make. So first I would ask somebody, just reach out, and I would find somebody that can help at least give you a little advice on how to get the web page started or the YouTube page started. There's some shortcuts there you can do. The second thing I would ask them is, why are you doing it? My advice to you is you need to know what your why is. My why was I was building something that was going to be 5 years plus. I was going to do it with a team, and I wanted to do it because I felt like I could do it just as good, if not better, than everybody else that was out there doing it. That was my why. Your why is going to be different, Stephen, right? Why do you get up and go to work every day? Why do you sit down at your computer and put in 60 hours a week on your channel, right? You have to know what the why is. And I've had several people that recently, there was a guy who acted like he wanted to be big, and he said, okay, what should I do? Nobody's watching my videos. I told him exactly what I just told you, and I said, why are you doing this? And he couldn't tell me. And if you can't answer a simple question like that, you probably shouldn't be doing it. I mean, you can go ahead and do it. It's free, right? Go ahead. But if you don't know what your why is, it's pretty difficult for you to be successful in anything, not just in YouTube. So those are the things I would do. I give free advice. Anybody wants to know the mistakes we've made or maybe the shortcuts that we've done, I share that information freely. So if there's anybody in your viewing audience that wants to reach me, just at B12 Mafia and send me a DM. My DMs are open, and I'm happy to have a conversation with you.
Great. I mean, that's wonderful advice, and I agree with you, Bomber, because you have to know why you're doing something. You have to know why you're making a YouTube channel, videos, and
Right.
all of that. And I know where I'm going with my YouTube channel. It's just a matter of time. It takes time to get stuff going, and
Be patient. Be patient.
exactly, gotta be patient. So yeah, great advice. And with that, guys, for those of you watching this right now, I will provide a link in the description box below that will link you guys to the College Football Mafia channel, so you can check out Bomber and company as they debate, as they talk about stuff related to college football. Go check them out. They put out such great stuff, guys. Please, I really do encourage you guys to check them out. College Football Mafia. Also, hang out with them on X and social media in general. Yeah, thank you so much, Nathan Brown Bomber, for being my special guest tonight.
You're
Uh,
welcome,
yeah,
Stephen. Anytime.
yeah, I really appreciate this. And like I said before, when I was a guest on your show, the Group of Six special show,
Mhm.
you guys were one of the reasons why I was encouraged to even do this, to
Oh,
even
good.
start my channel STV Castle and do everything I'm doing right now.
That's
So,
awesome.
you know, yeah, I have you guys in part to thank for what I'm doing now. So, yeah,
If you need help, all you gotta do is ask. You have my cell phone.
yeah,
I'm happy to talk to you anytime.
yeah. So with that, like I said, guys, check out the College Football Mafia YouTube channel in the description box below. I'll provide that. This has been episode number 14 of Steven Interviews You. Nathan Brown Bomber has been my guest. More content is sure to be put out soon. I'm Stephen Vitt. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll be back soon. Take care, guys.
Peace.
Recording.